What's up, guys? Welcome to GoGo Motoring YouTube channel. This is going to be the first video of a series of what you need to know videos that I'm going to be making on several BMW Z cars. So in today's video, I will tell you what you need to know about the BMW Z1, the first BMW Z car. So let me begin by kind of telling you how the BMW Z1 came to be. At the start of 1985, BMW ended up setting up a division called BMW Technik GmbH. And that particular company's mission was to develop concepts for new vehicles and technologies. And their first concept vehicle was the Z1 that you see here. Z in German and in BMW, Z stands for Zukunft, which in German means future. So Z1, Z3, Z4, Z8, that's Zukunft 1, 3, 4, 8. And of course refers to future and technological advancement. So that was sort of how the name Z came to be. So the Z1 was a limited production vehicle. It was only produced from 1989 to 1991, so about a 2-year production period. And it wasn't sold in the US. It was primarily sold in Germany and Italy. And there were exactly 8,000 Z1 vehicles that were sold worldwide. And it ended up being a relatively expensive vehicle to produce. It ended up costing more than what was advertised. Initially, they advertised it costing about 80,000 Deutschmarks. And the actual cost ended up being 83,000 Deutschmarks. And that, at the time, ended up being about 2.5 times more expensive than the BMW E30 series, which was a car with which the Z1 shared many parts. The Z1 came equipped with the M20 BMW naturally aspirated inline 6 engine. It's a 2.5 liter, and it produced 168 horsepower and 164 pound-foot of torque. It would go 0 to 60 in about 7.3 seconds. And I had a quarter-mile time of 17 seconds. The weight of the car was less than 2,800 pounds, 2,756. So, kind of the unique features, the technological advancements what made the BMW Z1 unique were, of course, first, its vertically retractable doors. What you see in this video is the car with its doors down. So the doors of the car go into the underbody of the car. They're retractable, as you can see here. And that was sort of that's kind of its defining characteristics. The high body sill offers crash protection, so you don't actually need to have the doors, to be raised up for the occupants to be, protected in case of crashes. And you could drive this car in some countries with those doors down. It kind of looks like a dune buggy. So the retractable doors were sort of the first, major sort of development with this particular car. The next thing that this car came equipped with were the removable plastic dent-resistant body panels. So the body panels that you see here are made out of plastic, and sort of the goal behind these materials was to where these materials didn't need to be on the car for the passengers to be, protected in case of a crash. There was structural integrity within the body of the car without the plastic panels being there. And BMW also claimed that all of these plastic panels that you see here could be removable, and the customers could then, put different colored plastic panels on the body of the car, which would allow them to change the car. Now, BMW claimed that this could be done in about 40 minutes. That obviously was not the case. It would take a lot longer. And in fact, a Wheeler Dealer did an episode of the Z1 in 2014. It took them 6 hours to remove all those panels. So another sort of development with the Z1, the technological development, was the aerodynamics of this car. I mean, if you look at this particular car, it looks very aerodynamic, and especially when you take into account that this car was made in the 80s when most cars were boxy looking. You look at this car and it really has that aerodynamic shape. So that was one of the key design elements with this particular car. It had a flat plastic under tray, and the front end apparently created a pressure zone that gave the car more front wheel traction. And then finally, the last sort of big development with this car was the development of a multi-link rear suspension. This was one of the first cars that BMW produced that came with the multi-link rear suspension. Ended up being called the Z axle. It was specifically designed for the Z1, and when that particular rear suspension ended up being used in a variety of BMW cars thereafter, starting with the BMW E36 3 Series. What was interesting, though, is that the Z3, which was produced several years later, actually didn't come with a multi-link rear suspension, and instead used the trailing arm rear suspension that was in the BMW E33 series. And in fact, that's one of the big criticisms for the BMW Z3 is that trailing arm rear suspension kind of doesn't make the car as stable in corners as a multi-link rear suspension would do. Let's talk about the looks of this car. So the lead designer for the BMW Z1 was a Dutch designer by the name of Harm Lagai. And after he designed the Z1, he ended up actually going back to Porsche. That's where he started. Ended up overlooking the design of the Porsche 993, the Porsche 996, the Porsche 997, the first generation of the Boxsters and the Caymans and the Cayenne. So this guy is obviously a design legend, and if you look at this particular car, obviously the design of it looks very aerodynamic. It looks sleek. It looks sporty. It's well sized. The size of the car is excellent. It has a small BMW kidney grille at the front, which of course at this point in time is a far cry from what you see in the modern design language of the BMW. But the proportions of this car look great. The car is looks to be just the right size from different angles, and it looks pretty cool with those doors down. In this red color that you see here, that was actually the most popular color of this car. In terms of the driving, obviously I filmed this car at the museum, so I wasn't able to drive this car. Frankly, there's not too many of those cars around, so I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to drive one. But I can already kind of suspect what I would think about this car if I had an opportunity to drive it. I think it'd be a fun car to drive. It is lightweight, which, as you all know, I'm a big fan of. It's less than 2,800 pounds. It has that naturally aspirated line 6 engine, which is probably pretty fun to rev out, and the sound it produces is probably pretty good. It's not very fast compared to modern cars, but then again, 7.3 seconds isn't that bad. Certainly not for a car that was produced in the 80s. I would imagine the car probably corners pretty well. It doesn't weigh a lot. It's got the multi-link rear suspension that was specifically designed for that car. So I would expect the car to be pretty fun to drive. And then finally, I think driving this car would be such an occasion. I mean, that's the beauty of a lot of these BMW Z cars. I think that the car would, with the roof down, with the doors down, it would certainly be an interesting experience, and I think it would definitely be. You would get a sense of occasion driving this thing. You probably get a lot of looks because you don't see cars like this on the road. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be following this video up with a video of the BMW Z3 and what you need to know. Thanks.
Go, go motoring! Go, go motoring! Go!